Hey guys, it's Chris here in my own shop here at home, and I've got something different than most often to talk about this morning or this afternoon or this evening, depending on when you're watching this video. This is all about proper cleaning of your weapons, and I'm interlacing that with how God works in our lives. Here is a Remington 30-06 rifle. I picked up this, I don't know, maybe over 10 years ago. And it's been sitting in our home for our house, I guess, one of the houses. And it's been, I've shot it at least a dozen times at different intervals, sporadically throughout the years. And then it's just rested along with some of the other rifles on my gun wall. And unfortunately, we moved it back and forth. And at one point, we had it in a place where it was resting in a wall-mounted gun or rifle display, and it received some moisture. Well, when you don't pay attention to your rifles, your weapons, they rust out if moisture gets to them. And this is one of those rifles that it received quite a bit of moisture. I wish, and I didn't do this, but I wish I could have showed you guys how much rust was on this barrel. Now this is, again, a Remington 30-06. It came with the scope. It is a stock built. It is, what can I tell you? It is a wonderful rifle to own, wonderful rifle to shoot. It's got a bit of a kick, obviously, but in the way of hunting or in the way of maintaining your rifles, you have to do a lot of maintenance with your rifles and keep them maintained. Otherwise, they rust out. Like our life, our daily life. If you don't maintain your life, if you don't take care of it, it will rust out. So this rifle rusted out, and actually I have here, and I'm going to try to see if I can show you a little bit about how bad this rifle, this 30-06 was. Now you can see, you can eat off of it. I cleaned it up very well. It's buffed. You can see the barrel here. It still needs a little bit of cleaning. I'm just kind of almost in the final stages of cleaning it. This is kind of the rust I was talking about. Here's a rusted barrel on a different rifle. That rust right there is produced over years and years of moisture and this is kind of the beginning stages of me cleaning the front of this other rifle, which I'll show you here in a minute. But ultimately, I just want to let you know, rifles are like life. If you don't maintain them, if you don't take care of them, well, they'll rust out, and eventually when you need to act on something that's important to you, it will fall apart. So, with that said, this is model 770, a Remington 770, which is a 30-06 with a Bushnell scope attached. It is clean, and I'm going to say that if it wasn't for me paying attention to the rusting of the barrel, it would have remained on that wall. And then if this was my only weapon, well, it would have not functioned properly when I needed it. So what does that mean? Well, that's like life today. If you maintain your life well, if you take care of it, if you're observant, if you're aware of your surroundings, if you are spiritually in tune, and you pay attention to your connection with God, then you can see when the rust approaches and gets to you, because you can then perhaps step back and say, you know what, I need to do some cleaning. I need to do some meditating. I need to spend some time with God. And God will help you. God is your Hope's 9 gun bore cleaner. God and the Holy Spirit, when it sanctifies you, when God sanctifies you, uses the rods, sometimes uses the towels, uses the cleaners, Look at this. Look at this amount of dirt that came off, and this is just one. There's a whole bucket full of, or actually garbage full. Uses these. God uses all the elements to clean and to make you into a brand new person. How that happens? Well, stay tuned and I'll tell you the rest of the story. After cleaning it with cleaner and lubricant, and in this case, gun bore cleaner, you want to wipe it down. You want to, of course, the butt stock, the stock itself, you want to wipe it down so it's got good grip to your hand. It is not slick and greasy. You want to wipe it down as best as you can. The wood stock or the plastic or whatever the material, fiber material that you're holding onto. The barrel, you want to wipe that down on the outside. You don't want to have any grease spots. You don't want to have any lubrication on the outside. You want to take as much as the grease away from it, so that way it remains in your hand as grippy and as stable as possible. Of course, the bolt and the internal components will need a little bit of lubrication, but the scopes and the external components shouldn't have any grease or any lubrication or any cleaner anywhere showing. So the rifle looks like a brand new rifle. When you're done with half hour to an hour cleaning, you should have a rifle that will be ready to shoot for the following day or following event of your life, if you're going to go hunting or target practice or whichever. So you generally should take about an hour per rifle, depending on how many rifles you have and how many times you shoot them, to clean the external components, the internal components, the bolt, the barrel itself, the trigger mechanism, the outside barrel, and the internal barrel, as well as any other components that the rifle comes with. You need to spend some quality time with the rifle, no matter if you shoot it, like in this lesson, or not, especially if it's sitting on the wall in a high moisture environment. Pay attention to your rifles, because otherwise you can't, they will not work when you need them. Turn your rifle upside down and also inspect all the components on the bottom side. Make sure your trigger points and your lever are, and the magazine support itself, and your, the bolts that are, in this case, you can see they're quite rusted. We're going to fix that as well. And the butt stock and the stock itself on the bottom is clean and ready for fire. In this case, I turned my rifle upside down to maintain and to clean as well. In areas that you can't reach, like the bolt right here behind it, or these bolts are inside the clip, use a brush. Use a brush. Have a cleaning solution and use a brush. Go ahead and scrub into those components, into those tight areas, and see if you can get some of that rust resolved, or some of those dirt or areas that need to be cleaned, especially here, like in this section where the trigger mechanism is. Oops, there goes my rod. Yeah, you need multiple tools to make sure that you have a good and clean weapon at all times. And of course you're going to clean these afterwards, but the idea is that you want to be able to hold on to these weapons for a long period of time, otherwise they fall apart. It's like with any weapon, any rifle, rust is your enemy in addition to whatever target you're shooting at. But yeah, rust is definitely not a good thing to see on your rifle. So to remove rust, you have different options. You can try to clean it by hand. There's rust remover cleaners that will work just fine. But when rust kicks in, your bolts wear out and then they eventually break. And just like that, like with the upper section of the rifle, once you clean the areas, you want to wipe it down as well as best as you can. You don't want to have any grease, any lubrication, any cleaner anywhere in any spots, so that way your hand can grip the rifle properly. So take your time to clean it properly and address all these different little pockets of air and corners and turns and all these little parts of the rifle that exist that you can't really reach into. Make sure you take care of those as well. Otherwise, that grease and that oil will leak out right when you least expect it. This is the bolt that fits inside this chamber over here. That's a pretty simple 30-06. This again, model 770 Remington. It just simply has a barrel, a stock itself, and it's a one piece with a bolt that you can remove and clean and take care of. And so it's a pretty unique rifle. I think almost everybody in America has one, if not everybody around the world. I think it's more of a, hunting rifle. I almost forgot to show you. You must clean your bolt as well, and clean all parts of it. Not necessarily to the point where it's dripping wet, but once you clean it and you lubricate it, and then you apply, of course, at the last stage of this thing is applying lubrication in the lubrication points, which I'll show you here in a minute. But don't forget, the bolt is important, tremendously important. In addition to the barrel itself, the exterior and the interior barrel, the bolt is as well, and very important. In order to put this bolt back in, you got to open this lever here, support, and then insert the bolt at a position that it allows for it to slide in. And then once you just slightly slide it in, then you can fit it all the way in, and then lock the bolt release back, and that way the bolt stays put in there. And then this is how you locked it, and cocked and loaded, or locked and loaded, and then the rifle should be good once it's in this position. Right now it's locked and loaded, and so the bolt is in place. What I'm doing here, sorry, I pushed my finger over the camera, is in place. So one of the first things that I use is with all my rifles and my guns is a handy dandy Otis 085 firearms wipes. Obviously everybody seems to use this. These are generally, you put gloves on. I've been lacking gloves because I've used them all up, so I'm going to wash my hands immediately after I wipe this rifle. But you start by cleaning the buttstock, obviously. The barrel is important. You apply this as much as, now I've already done all the prep work on this rifle, and I've cleaned it thoroughly, and I'm going to continue cleaning it all evening long, all morning and all afternoon, depending on when you're watching this video. That's how God does the same thing. He sanctifies us through the Holy Spirit, and daily as we apply ourselves to His will, He uses towels, He uses napkins, He uses the Holy Spirit to wipe clean and to constantly remind us that without Him we can't function. This world is full of dirt, just like this gun was full of rust. The sin of this world represents the rust on this rifle. And when God wipes us clean, initially during the sanctification process, during the acceptance salvation process, when you give yourself to God, you become a born-again Christian. You join God's army. However, the sin of this world remains. It is amongst us. We can't escape it. Until we get to heaven, there is no such thing as escaping sin. This world is full of sin. When we do get to heaven, we can no longer sin. God is present, and in His presence, sin doesn't exist. In heaven, rust doesn't exist. In heaven, if I would take this rifle, if that is such a thing, there would be no rust. So we wouldn't have to clean it because the rust would no longer exist. The sin doesn't exist in heaven. In the meantime, we got to constantly clean it. And cleaning it means that the rust, as you and I expose ourselves to humidity, to the elements, to the sinful nature of the world, some rust attaches itself to our existence. But God gives us these towels, these napkins, these tissues, these cleaners, also called the Holy Spirit. When we apply the Holy Spirit to our lives, when we feel that gut telling us, the conviction of the Holy Spirit, that we need to meditate, we need to clean, we need to allow ourselves to remove ourselves, to allow the Holy Spirit to wipe us clean of the rust that's on our bodies. I used to say the leeches that live amongst us. You know, the sinful nature, the attachments, whatever you want to call it. You know, it is the sin of this world. Through the application of God and the Holy Spirit, through the sanctification process, we escape, we run away from sin, and God wipes us clean, and we become wiped clean and ready to face another day. Every single time we receive the purification of the Holy Spirit, we become stronger and more powerful. In this case, this gun is almost done. It will be done later on, and it will be shooting very well. It will be shooting down range or up range or up in the air or down into the ground, depending where it is, but it will be shooting. I can't speak because I'm a little tired. But anyway, with that in mind, this rifle is a representation of who we are. If we expose ourselves to the moisture, to the sin of this world, it lingers and it catches and attaches to the rifle, and it creates rust. That rust will eventually make us fall apart. So this rifle could have fallen apart if I didn't observe the fact that it was rusted. If you don't observe the sinful nature, the world around you, the sin will linger and catch you out of the blue. And next thing you know, you're trying to perform or do something, and there's no possibility because you're going to break apart. Your marriage is going to fall apart. Your job is going to fall apart. Your relationship is going to fall apart because you haven't applied the Holy Spirit to your life. I've been there. Without God in my life, I would not be able to be here, to function, to clean this rifle. There's only one source for spiritual cleaning. That is God. May you find that God is more important than anything in your life. I hope and I pray that you put God in everything you do first, and through Him, you receive His daily cleaning. Thanks for watching.